What if I told you you're not actually lost? What if the version of you that feels stuck, confused, burned out, maybe even broken, isn't the real you at all, but the you you've settled into? See, feeling lost isn't a sign you're off course. It's a signal, a powerful, painful, beautiful signal that your soul is done with the script you've been reading from. And in that silence, in that frustration, in that quiet ache that says there's got to be more than this, you're not breaking down, you're being called up. So the question is, are you ready to stop waiting and finally start leading your life? You know, sometimes the hardest part about feeling lost is that it doesn't look like falling apart. It doesn't scream. It doesn't throw things. It doesn't always come with chaos or tears. It's quiet. It sneaks up on you. You're doing everything right, showing up to work, smiling when you should, nodding along, paying bills, going through the motions, but inside, you feel like a ghost in your own life. You can't explain it to anyone, not really, because on paper, you're doing fine, maybe even good, but something's off. Something's missing. You're trying to think your way out of it, reading more, planning harder, overthinking every little detail, but it just makes the fog thicker. That's the trap. When you feel lost in life, most people try to fix it by thinking more. If I could just figure this out, they say. If I could understand why I'm feeling this way, maybe I could change it. So you spiral. You run circles in your mind trying to solve something emotional with logic. It doesn't work because clarity doesn't live in your head. It lives in your heart. I remember a young man, let's call him Marcus, who came to one of the live interventions years ago. From the outside, he had it together. Late 20s, high-paying job in finance, dressed sharp, polite, respectful. But when he sat down across from me, his eyes, they told the truth. He said, I don't know what's wrong. I'm not depressed. I'm not in crisis, but I just don't feel anything anymore. I'm not excited about anything. I wake up and I feel like I'm on autopilot. And I told him, you're not broken, because when you live up here, pointing to the head, all the time and you ignore this, pointing to the heart, you can build a life that looks successful and still feel empty. You see, your mind is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master. It's brilliant at solving problems, but it can't create passion. It can't give you fulfillment. That comes from your heart, from your soul. But if you haven't been listening to that part of you for years, of course it's going to feel foreign. That's why you feel lost. You're not without direction. You've just lost the connection to the part of you that knows which way to go. So how do you reconnect? You stop thinking and you start feeling again. You get out of your head and into your body, into your breath, into your emotions. You stop trying to figure it all out and instead you experience where you are. I told Marcus, stand up. He looked confused. Just do it, I said. He stood up. Now move your body, shake your arms, loosen your shoulders, breathe deeper, again, louder. Feel it in your chest. And he laughed, not out of joy, but out of discomfort. This feels silly, he said. I smiled. Exactly. Because it's not what you think you need, but it's what your soul needs. Movement, aliveness, presence. You've been a brain in a chair for years. Of course your spirit feels numb. Within minutes, something shifted. His voice got stronger. His eyes lit up. For the first time in that entire conversation, he was present. You see, when you're in your head, you live in the past or in a future that hasn't happened yet. But when you're in your body, in your breath, in this moment, that's where life is. That's where answers live. And I'll tell you something else. You don't find your way by overanalyzing every wrong turn you took. You find your way when you start feeling again. When you allow yourself to want something, to get curious again, to touch that little spark, that whisper that says, maybe I'm meant for more than this routine. That whisper, that's your heart. And it doesn't yell, it waits. Silently, patiently, hoping you'll get quiet enough to hear it again. Years ago, there was a single mother I worked with, late 30s, 2 kids, barely making ends meet, emotionally exhausted. She said to me, I've been running on empty for years. I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm just trying to survive. I asked her one question. When was the last time you felt alive? She paused. She said, maybe 10 years ago, before the divorce, I used to dance. Just in my room, sometimes in the kitchen with the kids. I forgot how good that felt. I told her, start dancing again. Every morning, 2 minutes, even if you're tired, even if it feels silly, just move. Let your body remember what joy feels like. She did. Within weeks, everything started to shift. Not because her situation magically changed, but because she did. Her energy changed, her confidence returned, she started making clearer decisions, she started smiling again, her kids noticed, her coworkers noticed, she started remembering who she was before life buried her under a pile of responsibility. Because here's the truth, you don't need a 10-step plan to find your way. You need a moment where you feel connected to yourself again, a moment of realness, of fire. And those moments, they never come from sitting and thinking about your pain. They come from moving through it. You've got to feel to heal. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you've lost your spark, stop trying to analyze the flame. Start breathing again. Move your body. Step outside. Put your feet in the grass. Play your favorite song, not the one you should listen to, the one that stirs something in you. Cry if you need to. Scream if you need to. Just don't numb it anymore, because what you're calling lost might just be your soul trying to get your attention. It's saying, hey, I'm still here. You're not off course. You've just been looking for direction in all the wrong places. You're searching the map when you should be listening to the compass inside you. And that compass, it's not found in books, not in apps, not in endless conversations trying to figure things out. It's in your heart, in your body, but you've got to listen, not with your ears, with your life. You ever notice how when things start to fall apart, when you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or like life's slipping through your fingers, you start asking the kind of questions that don't actually move you forward. Questions like, why is this happening to me? Or what's wrong with me? Or the classic, why can't I just get it together? Now stop for a second. Think about that. Every question you ask your brain, it tries to answer. That's what it does. It's a survival machine. You ask, why am I a failure? Your brain won't argue. It'll go digging through your past, collecting every moment you've ever messed up. Every time someone doubted you, it'll throw it back in your face like, here, look, proof. That's not clarity. That's sabotage wrapped in curiosity. But flip the question just slightly and everything changes. You ask, what am I learning through this? Or who can I become because of this pain? And suddenly you've opened a new door. Your brain starts searching not for guilt, but for growth. That's the shift. The quality of your life is directly tied to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Because questions are like a flashlight. Whatever you point them at, you see more clearly. You ask low quality questions, you get low quality answers. You ask empowering questions, you start seeing options, possibilities, strength you didn't even know you had. I remember this young woman, Sarah. She came to a live event a few years back, shoulders slouched, voice barely above a whisper. She said, I don't know who I am anymore. I feel like I've failed my family, my career. I don't even know what I want. I asked her, what have you been asking yourself when you wake up every morning? She paused. Then she said, mostly. Why do I even bother? I said, well, there's your answer. You keep asking your mind to prove you don't matter. And it does every day. Then I leaned in and asked her, what if instead you started asking, what would it look like today if I showed up as my best self? Not even perfectly, just better. What if you asked, what am I proud of from yesterday, even if it's small? Or what's one thing I do today that brings me closer to who I want to become? Tears welled up in her eyes, not because it was some breakthrough she'd never heard before, but because deep down, she knew she'd been asking the wrong questions for too long. She'd built a mental prison out of them. And that was the first moment she realized the door was never locked. It starts small. You don't have to go from why me to I'm unstoppable in a day. That's not the point. But you can go from why me? What is this trying to teach me? From why can't I do anything right? To what's one thing I've done right this week? From what's the point? To what could be possible if I didn't give up today? Those questions, they build a new story, and here's the truth. Your story is what you live inside. You don't live in your circumstances, you live in your interpretation of them. You live in your questions. Your story is shaped by the questions you ask yourself in the quiet moments. When no one's watching, that's when the script gets written. So you've got to take the pen back. Start small. Ask, what do I want to feel today? Ask, what can I be grateful for in this exact moment, no matter how hard things are? Ask, what's one small thing I can control, and how do I give it everything I've got? That's not cheesy. That's strategy, because your brain is a powerful tool, but it follows your lead. Give it a question rooted in fear. It'll deliver anxiety. Give it a question rooted in hope. It'll deliver vision. And in the end, the right question doesn't just give you an answer. It gives you yourself back. You ever reach that point where everything feels like a blur? Days passing by like pages flipping in a book you're not even reading anymore? You tell yourself, I just need more time, more clarity, more signs. But deep down, you know it's not about time or signs or even clarity. It's about a decision you haven't made yet. Because let's be honest, most people aren't confused. They're hesitating. They're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, the perfect plan. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, there's no perfect moment. There's just now. And the people who change their lives, they don't wait. They decide. But not the kind of decision people throw around casually. Yeah, I've decided I want to get healthier, or I've decided I should probably quit this job eventually. No. That's not a decision. That's a wish dressed up in polite language. A real decision. It cuts. It severs. It says, this is who I am now. That part of me, that story, that excuse, that limitation, it doesn't get to stay. I met a man once, early 40s, 3 kids, corporate job, solid paycheck. On the outside, it looked like he was doing everything right. But inside, he was drowning. Every day, he said he drove to work with a pit in his stomach. Sunday nights were the worst. His chest would tighten just thinking about the next day. I know I need to leave, he told me. I've known for years, I've read the books, I've prayed on it, I've talked to my wife, but I just haven't done it. And I said, you haven't decided. That's the truth. You've thought about it. You've wished for it, but you haven't decided. He looked at me, eyes wide, almost defensive. You don't understand. I have responsibilities. I can't just walk away. And I said, I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm telling you to commit. The moment you decide, your mind stops negotiating, it starts finding solutions. But right now, it's still searching for exits because you haven't closed the door behind you. That's what a real decision does. It closes doors, not to punish you, but to focus you. Think about it. When you're standing in front of 2 doors, one labeled comfort and the other labeled calling, you don't drift into your calling. You decide to walk through that door, sometimes shaking, sometimes sweating, but you move. And here's the powerful part. When you do that, when you finally say, this is it, no more, something wakes up in you. It's primal. You stop leaking energy through indecision. You stop second guessing every step. You step into ownership. You're not waiting for life to give you permission anymore. You become the permission. You see, the word decision comes from the Latin decider, which means to cut off. That's it. A decision is a cutting tool. It removes other options. It says, this is my direction. I don't care how foggy it looks ahead. I'm not going back. And you don't need to have it all figured out to do that. You don't need a full business plan or a perfect exit strategy or a 10-year forecast. You just need to draw the line internally first, because the decision comes before the details. Always. I've seen people who were confused for 5 years finally make one hard decision and their entire life changed in 6 months. Why? Because energy follows commitment. When you commit fully, you activate something in the universe. And more importantly, you activate something in yourself. Your courage shows up. Your creativity returns. Your intuition gets louder. It's like life was just waiting for you to stop playing small so it could finally hand you the pen again. So if you're standing at that edge, heart racing, palms sweating, scared to leap, know this, you don't need more time. You don't need more certainty. You need to decide who you're going to be from this moment forward. Not someday, not when it's safe. Now, you know what's wild? Most people aren't living their lives. They're reliving their past on a loop. Day after day, thought after thought, same emotions, same triggers, same reactions, different clothes, different calendar dates, but the same identity running the show underneath. And here's the thing, identity is powerful. It's the story you've told yourself so many times, you've stopped questioning if it's even true. It's not just who you think you are, it's who you believe you are. And when that belief gets cemented, it controls everything. Not just your actions, but your expectations, your boundaries, your possibilities. You say, I'm just not a confident person. Or, I've always been the one who messes things up. Or, that's just how I am. I overthink. I panic. I shut down. No, that's not who you are. That's who you've practiced being. And whatever identity you practice consistently becomes your reality. I met a woman, single mom, 2 jobs, exhausted, almost broke, but bright, sharp, big heart. And she said to me, I just don't think I'm meant for success. I've tried everything. I always mess it up. I guess I'm just one of those people who wasn't born with it. And I leaned in and said, who told you that story? Who planted that belief in you? that you're not meant for more, because that's not truth. That's programming somewhere along the way. You pick that up and now you wear it like it's your skin. She went quiet. Her eyes got glassy. And then she whispered, my father used to say that you're not like your brother. He's the achiever. You're the emotional one. That one sentence, that became her identity. And once that identity was in place, everything she did either proved it or protected it. Every decision, every doubt, every opportunity she walked away from because she didn't feel ready. That's the thing. When you believe something about yourself deeply enough, you don't just act on it. You protect it. You build a life around it. A comfort zone, a prison, call it what you want. But what if, just what if, that identity isn't who you are? What if it's just a suit you've been wearing, one that someone else picked out for you? You want to transform your life? You want to feel alive again? You've got to upgrade the identity that's running your decisions. Not someday, right now. You say, but I don't feel like that version of me yet. Of course you don't, because you're waiting to feel like it before you act like it. But that's not how change works. You act your way into a new identity. You become it by living it before it feels natural, before it feels comfortable. You show up as the person you want to be before you fully believe you are. That's how real transformation happens. You all 3 Ps that you walk into the gym not as the unmotivated person who's trying to change. You walk in as the athlete who trains every day, no matter what. You show up to that interview not as someone who's never had a break, but as the person who brings fire, vision, and undeniable value. You parent your kids not as someone who's repeating the cycle, but as the one who ends it with love, with strength, with presence. That identity, it already exists inside you, but it's been buried under years of repetition, fear, and old definitions. And here's the kicker. Every time you act from that new place, even if it's messy, even if it's small, you're reinforcing the new story. You're giving your brain new proof, new emotional muscle, and slowly it becomes who you are, not because the past disappeared, but because you stopped dragging it into your future. So if you're feeling stuck or lost, or like your life is playing on repeat, maybe it's not your habits that need changing. Maybe it's the identity underneath them, the one that says, this is who I am. Because when that changes, everything else follows. You ever notice how when people feel completely lost, burnt out, emotionally drained, unsure of everything, they usually try to think their way out of it. They sit there spinning in circles, trying to figure it all out with logic, as if the answers will just appear if they think hard enough. But what happens? They overthink. They question everything. They start drowning in what ifs and should haves. And the more they think, the worse it gets. Because here's what most people don't realize. Motion changes emotion. The fastest way to shift your state, to break through the fog, is not to sit and analyze. It's to move. Physically, emotionally, energetically. Because your body is not separate from your mind. It's the access point to your power. You take someone who's depressed. What's their posture? Shoulders down, breathing shallow, head low. No energy in their voice. You ask them to stand up straight, take a deep breath, move their body, lift their voice. And what happens? Instantly, the energy shifts, not because the problem disappeared, but because they showed up differently. There was this young guy, mid-20s. He came up to speak at an event, said he was completely stuck. No purpose, no confidence, didn't know where he was going in life. He said, I've tried journaling, I've tried meditating, I've done the self-help stuff, but I still feel empty. And I looked at him and said, how do you start your day? He shrugged, usually wake up late, scroll my phone, sit around, sometimes skip breakfast. I said, of course you feel empty. You've trained your body and your mind to expect nothing. You're not priming your energy, you're leaking it. So I walked him through something simple. I had him stand tall, shoulders back, chest open, deep breath in. And I said, right now, I want you to shout one sentence like your life depends on it, yet I'm not done yet. First, he hesitated, voice weak, embarrassed. But then he tried again, louder, stronger. And on the third try, something cracked open. The voice got louder, body got big, eyes came alive. Why? Because he changed his state. And when your state changes, your mind follows. That's not motivation. That's biology. You want to feel different, move different. Even something as simple as going for a walk when your thoughts start to spiral. Doing 5 minutes of push-ups when the fear creeps in. Playing music that makes your soul move and letting it take over your body. That's not silly. That's strategic. You don't wait to feel ready. You move until readiness finds you. And I'm not talking about pretending you're fine. I'm not saying fake it. I'm saying shift it. You don't need to lie to yourself. You just need to give your nervous system a different experience. One breath, one posture, one moment of reclaiming your space, your energy, your momentum. P's that make. Because motion is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And it's available anytime People think they need a breakthrough to feel alive again. They don't. What they need is to change the pattern that's keeping them stuck. And most patterns, they start in the body, slumped shoulders, flat voice, heavy breathing. You do that long enough, your mind will match it. It'll say, yeah, we must be stuck. We must be lost, be broken. But reverse it and your mind will follow that too. Your body leads the mind. Your breath leads your focus. And when those two shift, the emotion shifts, then the story starts to shift, then the action shift. And that's how you go from lost to moving forward. Not all at once, not perfectly, but powerfully. Because the fog in your life isn't always a lack of answers. Sometimes it's just a lack of movement. And the moment you break the pattern, physically you open a new path, one breath, one decision, one motion at a time. There's a moment, quiet, sometimes unexpected, where you realize that the life you've been living it isn't the one you truly want. It hits like a whisper at first, maybe in the silence after a long day, maybe when you see someone else light up with purpose and wonder why you've been walking around dimmed for so long. It doesn't always come in a breakdown. Sometimes it comes in a pause, a breath, a question, is this it? And that question, it stings because deep down, you know there's more to give, more to become, more to experience. But here's the truth. Most people never admitted growth doesn't come wrapped in comfort. Purpose doesn't arrive with certainty, the life you're meant to live. It's on the other side of everything you're afraid to feel. Most people don't stay stuck because they're lazy. They stay stuck because they're scared. Scared to try and fail. Scared to dream too big. Scared to be judged, to be seen, to be wrong. So they shrinkle. They numb out and they build a routine that keeps them safe, but also keeps them small. But there comes a time, your time, when you stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for clarity and start creating it. You stop holding your breath and start owning the air around you. And it's not because the fear disappears. It's because you finally understand something most never do. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. Your growth matters more. Your voice matters more. Your story, your pain, your here becoming, it all matters more. And the moment you decide to show up fully, to stop dimming, to stop delaying, to stop hiding, that's the moment life starts to meet you differently. Doors you couldn't see before begin to open, not because they weren't there, but because you finally stopped looking down. I remember a man, late 50s. He stood in front of the crowd, tears in his eyes, and he said, I've wasted my life. I've done what everyone told me to do. I've been the good son, the reliable husband, the hard worker, but I don't even know who I am. And I said, you haven't wasted your life. You've lived it without leading it. He nodded slowly. I said, but it's not too late. You don't need to burn it all down. You just need to turn it on, turn on your truth, turn on your voice. Turn on the part of you that's been whispering all these years, because that whisper, that's not weakness. That's the real you waiting. He cried, not because he was broken, but because something in him finally broke open. And maybe you're there now. Maybe you've been doing everything right, but feeling everything wrong. Maybe you've checked the boxes, career, relationship, responsibilities, but your soul's been on mute. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop waiting for life to feel different and decide to live different. Not in giant, dramatic leaps, but in simple, sacred choices. To speak up, to say no, to say yes, to create something, to forgive someone, to walk away, to begin again. This is your invitation, not to change who you are, but to return to who you've always been beneath the noise. You are not lost. You are becoming. And the journey ahead isn't about perfection. It's about presence, showing up for your own life, leading it, claiming it. Because one day, far from now, you're going to look back and you'll either say, I kept waiting for the right time, or you'll say, that moment right there was when I woke up. Let this be that moment.